Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining so efficiently. Just let you all know we are recording as we speak. And so, yes, if you want to let me know anything, feel free, but you are being recorded. So I have three colleagues on the call with me today to help me out. Lessons learned from last week's efforts. So I have my lovely daughter as co-host. She is here to assist everyone in the meeting to make sure they can get in and to troubleshoot any issues people may have with audio and things like that. It's a bit bizarre to be working with my daughter, who was born the day Murray and I started to develop the software. So used to crawl around the office a couple of years later, drawing on all of the walls of that particular office at the time, which was entertaining. And now she gets to support the software we were creating at the time. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Also joining me today, you would have met them in the first of this UniPhi 20 series, Murray Stiles, our systems architect, who you just heard started with me 21 years ago to start on this journey, and Raj, who is our Chief Operating Officer, who also joined us out of university many years ago, and then went off into the wilderness to find out what life was like in the non-UniPhi world, only to come back like the prodigal son a couple of years ago to help me out when I desperately needed him, and has been doing a fantastic job ever since. So that's who's on the call. Murray and Raj are going to assist me with questions. So if you've got any questions and comments, feel free to either jump in verbally or just write in the chat, and they will help me respond to those so that I don't miss them like I did last week. And again, apologies for those if I didn't reply. All right, so let's get into it because it's only a 30-minute session. You'll have seen a couple of survey questions popping up there. Feel free to jump in there and answer those at your leisure. If I get a little bit dull, you can turn your attention to that. And we're going to kick off just by, as I mentioned, Raj and Murray on the call. One of the things that this webinar is going to demonstrate is some features that were direct requests of our lovely user base. And so what we want to do is just talk about how that can happen. And so, Raj, you can kick us off. Just like if someone in the room here or someone out in the ether using UniPhi has a great idea, what would they do to get us to know about it?
Yeah, sure. So support requests can come about to us through one of many ways, through our support channel. We've got, obviously, as I'm sure everyone is aware, our support inbox, support@unifi.com.au. Feel free to email us what your requests are with additional information. That will be, greatly appreciated. We've also got our chat on our website, our Zendesk chat, where you're chatting to someone from our support team. You can discuss your feature request there. And of course, we've got our support ticketing system as well. And lastly, we've got your key account manager. That might be myself, Grace, or someone else from our team, some of our external partners as well, fulfill that role. And they could be used as a means for you to submit your request that will get sent across to us, whereby we will receive and we will log them in to prioritize.
Right, and that priority, Raj, how do you reckon someone can go about getting us to take notice? Because you can imagine, guys, we've got, I think, a little over 1,000 items on our ticket list to backlog to work through. To get it from item number 1001, what do you reckon people need to do to get some urgency around it?
Well, the details matter in this case. So understanding what that request is about, the workflow that's involved, and sometimes we get caught up in our own little world that we don't understand what our clients are sometimes doing, and mostly those are great things. So understanding and getting more information about what the request is going to be like will help push that forward on the development pipeline side of things.
Yeah, so what we're trying to say there, guys, is that if you do have a really great idea, please sell it a little bit, make us understand the issue or the opportunity as well as you can, because we're a little bit slow here sometimes, and we may not get it the first time around. But yeah, it's a challenging one for us to make sure that we're getting the best next round of upgrades for our users. And if you guys can participate in that, we'd appreciate it. So Murray, we've now got all these requests. We've got, as I said, over 1,000 of them. How do we go about working out what to do next?
Yeah, so basically once a week we get the senior management team together, and we're reviewing requests that have come either from our own internal thoughts, or often it is our clients who are giving us great ideas on how to improve the product. And at a basic level, that then goes into a prioritization framework. So if we've got multiple customers requesting the same feature or a similar feature, then obviously that's going to put a lot more weight behind that. If there's more of the user base is going to benefit from it. We're also taking into account the technical feasibility. There are often great ideas that are challenging to implement at a technical level, or might affect the performance of the product, and so that would be a negative. And also, sometimes a request is very simple to do. It's limited effort, but high quality of life improvement for the end user. So obviously that's going to bring it right to the top of the tree.
Nice one. All right. Thanks, Murray. So that was just a little bit of before we jump into the meat of this session, some information for you guys to think about when wanting to get that piece of functionality out. And as you may also know or not, we do have a bleeding edge program, which enables users to get early releases of our next release, which will now be UniPhi 21. And that means that you can put in some requests for some features, get those features early, trial them out for us as those bleeding edge trailblazers do, and smooth off the edges before we go to the broader user base when we release the entire new sort of 21 release. All right, so let's get into the meat of this session. This is a pretty exciting one. I've actually been really enjoying getting my head around all of the changes that have been made around this stuff. And this is to do with enhanced cost management. And what we mean about that really is that UniPhi is there to baseline and then performance manage many aspects of a project, and one critical one being the budget that's been allocated to that project. And so in terms of our user base who we're looking at here, we're talking about client-side project managers who are managing a budget, or QS who is managing a budget on behalf of someone else who's investing in an asset. Or we're talking about those people who are actually investing in the asset themselves, the property developers, the property general managers of large organizations who are building things, either infrastructure or vertical commercial, residential, aged care, whatever it is, buildings. So that's the topic that we're getting into. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, here we go. And get up my notes. So here we are in UniPhi 20, and what we're going to do is...
It doesn't look like the screen share's come up, Mark.
Thanks, mate. It helps if I actually press the button. One of those button pressing jobs, Murray. Little in-joke there, guys. Sorry about that. And so, yeah, here we are. Hopefully you can see that. We're in UniPhi 20, and I'm doing a webinar all about cost. So hopefully everyone knows where I'm about to head to, which is over into the cost module. So one of the first benefits of UniPhi that's been around for a while is the fact that when you land on this page, you get a nice portfolio view of your projects and how they're performing to budget, with a variance column sitting in over there that instantly, transparently communicates to all and sundry who can access this page, whether you're in deep doo-doo or not, which can be one of the threats, I guess, to the project managers who have to come in and use our application. And so what we've done in this release is really try to assist them in updating that information and give them greater granularity in trying to participate in asking for budget change requests or updating a forecast to complete. And some of that functionality was really quite limited in the past, and we really appreciate as I mentioned, the clients who have come to us with some ideas around that. And as usual, when you get clients coming at you with different ideas, we end up doing both. So there's a few options around the way you do this, which I'm going to demonstrate as well. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be all done at sort of right on the coalface, right? We're actually managing a project budget more than the portfolio tracking elements of UniPhi. And I'm going to go into the residential towers project as opposed to the larger residential towering towers. And here we are. Initial phase of this project that hasn't even got a business case complete yet. but we have received a early stage master planning estimate, if you like. And so on this page here, you can see no cost information exists at this point in time. But when I go to the budget subnav, you'll see that there is actually a budget here. And that's something worth noting, is that you kind of publish a budget through the approval process. And so in this instance, at this point in time, all I've got is I've captured that early stage estimate that we've received, and that's sitting in here. And what I want to do now is we want to actually present that for approval as a business case. And so in the first instance, you would hit this snapshot icon here, and you can see that when I've got this little form pop up, I've got two options here, original and approved. Now, that is a configured option. It's optional whether that's going to be the case. And I'm going to actually turn that capability off during this webinar. But to begin with, we're just going to do this through this interface initially. And I'm just going to write in here business case. You can see it's version 1. I'm going to snapshot it as today. And then this is something that's UniPhi 20 related as well, in that you can track, or might be 19, life cycle phases. So if you had a budget for master plan or something else, this one hasn't got all those phases in it, but you could set up a budget for that. Now, it's important to understand within that UniPhi is not going to sum up every life cycle phase to get a whole project. You still need to have a whole project budget mutually exclusive of the life cycle. Main reason for that is if you've got a REBA 7-stage life cycle, you don't want to have to go into the 6 future ones and put the subcomponent budgets of those phases in when you're just doing a business case, and then have that total up to the whole project. We'd probably be shot. So you can do a business case budget and then a whole project budget, and that's all you need to do. It's not the sum of those life cycle phases. But in this instance, I'm doing a whole project budget, which is a business case. And another feature within the UniPhi 20 is the commentary that I could have put against these codes as well. So that's to line by line articulate why that 1.5 million came about. And that's also quite valuable when we get to the transfers and the changes. You can document what's changed within each one. So hitting save now captures that budget. And if I go back to the dashboards now, you can see we have the original and approved there, but I also have this variance. And so this is the part where we start to get into the forecasting. So yes, we've got a budget, what we think it's going to be, but we're always going to be tracking that. Even in an early stage, we want to be able to track the forecast that we're currently working on before we go back and ask for more money or less money, depending on the case may be. And so that all occurs within this forecast to complete. This has been completely rewritten in UniPhi 20, and it's a fantastic job that one of the hat tips I want to do in this webinar is to one of our great developers who have really come on in leaps and bounds in the last couple of years, which is Frida Moore. And I'll hat tip her in the LinkedIn post later as well, because she's not on the call. And so this is cleaned up. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot less busy interface. And you can see that you can quantity unit rate your untendered amounts now as a bit of an estimating methodology. And equally, you can drill in below the code level and do as many lines as you need to bottom up that particular new stuff that's come out. So as this project goes from business case right through to construction, and during construction phase, you might find out some issues that haven't actually been, you might have some FF&E stuff that's come out of the blue. You haven't even got any contracting around that stuff yet, but you need to build up a new price for it. You can come into this screen, drill in onto the FF&E line here and start to call it something new and develop up a new budget around that. What I want to do in the first instance is just balance my budget, because I haven't even progressed the project yet. I just want those two to be in harmony. And so what you can do around that is do this auto calculation. And all that does is it looks at the amount of the budget and it compares the two and balances out. Now, like all good plans, I've got a few issues within all of that because I've been messing around with it. And so I'd have to work through those. The easiest way to work through those initially is then to turn it back off again. So it's giving you most of the ones that are variance. But I think this is a level 4 issue here. So I just need to put in the 175. We've dropped in some specific codes and I've cleared them out again. So this is mainly me doing dummy data before the webinar. And then, so you will have a low level variance because that didn't exist when we snapshotted the budget, but at the level 2 or level 3, we're now at 0. And so overall our variance is only this 488 now, which again is the hello line that I did. So I think I've jumped into the wrong trial project here, which is always good, but that's okay. The thing is, it's communicating the issues that you need to work on there. And now we're back to where I wanted to be, which is the overall project budget being a variance. So that hello is basically the drill through from this particular screen here. And so I could add extra items in there now and build that up. And again, using quantity unit rate and writing comments around what that is in terms of my forecast. So I think that's a pretty cool little addition to the UniPhi 20 feature. I know one person who used to nag me about this some time ago. Apologies it took so long, which gets back to that conversation we had about priorities when he was a construction manager at an aged care facility, and that used to bug him. In the past, you would have kind of had to do that outside of UniPhi and then put the number in manually yourself as a one-liner against those higher level codes. Now you can drill in and have as many lines as you like to build up that new forecast. Okay, so where I'm going to go to now is, you still okay letting them in, Gracie?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, cool. What I'm going to go to now is the next stage of all of this. And so that might be to actually then create a variance to this. And there's a little bit of a trick in doing that. So I've got a lump sum line here under the main works. Actually, I'll do it under the ICT contract though. I've got 430,000 here, right? So we've just found out, we've done an ICT workshop. We found out we need more kit than we thought. What I would recommend people do in this instance is come in here, and the first line would be to put in original budget, right, which was 430,000. So you kind of need to have two screens or copy that number and come in. So there's probably some usability improvements as you start using these things in anger. Because what that does is it just means that you're not, if you put in a line here that says $20,000 extra, it's actually going to be 20,000. It's going to roll up over the top of the 430. So what I'm going to do is some extra kit. And again, you remember you've got the line over here where you can explain what it is, you know, TVs or monitors or whatever it is, $20,000. Again, you could do 20 monitors at whatever. And, you know, you save that and there we go. We've now got a variance to budget on the ICT contractor line, which is a variance to budget on the project. Now, what people might not be aware of, this functionality is not UniPhi 20, but it's hidden away and it probably hasn't been used. When you come back into the budget screen, one of the cool things is you can compare the current budget, which is still the approved because we haven't changed anything here yet, to the forecast. And that's that $20,000 variance again, which is on the ICT contractor line. This is just a lower level line that wasn't existing before. And I've got this copy forecast button. And so I can just, if I want to present that 20,000 as the new approved budget, I can just copy that. And that'll bring across any changes I've made in the forecast to complete. But at this point in time, it's not an approved budget, it's just a new budget that compares to my forecast exactly. If I go to the dashboards, all of those variances are still going to be there, and the 20,000 variance is still there because I haven't got it approved yet. So what I'm going to do now is just show you the configuration elements within UniPhi to change this sort of stuff. And what I did before, if you recall, I went to the budget screen and I hit snapshot and I ticked these boxes. That's only if you're managing someone else's money. If you're a property developer, you want control around that. You want delegations of authority. You want to be able to communicate the task. You don't want your budget changing willy-nilly. You want to have some governance around it. And so what you do is you come into the configuration under the chart of accounts and you go to settings. And you can see here, it says original approved budget requires sign off. That was set to no. That's why I could tick those boxes. When I tick yes here, what it's going to mean is that now I need to create a document that gets workflowed through for that change to actually be approved. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go and create one now. We're going to come back to this one in a moment because this is also new. This is the new fancy budget change by transactions methodology, but we're going to leave that off for a minute. Just quickly jump into the document system, create a document. And in here, we've got two types of budget change request documents. This one's non-transactional, which is what I'm doing now. The second part of the webinar will be on the second part. Now, as soon as you get into our document system, you're now able to create delegations of authority and you have people assigned to those roles and you workflow that and you're going to get it presented. You also have the capability, this is creating change number 1, to present information. So in this template control, one of the cool things you can see, it's going to create the approved budget on sign off. You can compare it to the current version, the current approved version. So your current worked up version to the current approved. There's actually some really cool quantity rate variance analysis if you do have quantities and rates. So I'd check that out if you can. But in this time, we're only looking at lump sum values. You can untick all of those or even in the template default, get rid of them if you're not using them. And once again, on the right-hand side, we're going to have the variance column coming in, which is all the ins and outs of the different line items, etc. back to that approved budget. And you can see here, similar to the snapshot interface that we had before, we might call this value management workshop. That's where it drove the changes. And we call it whole project. And now that's going to re-snapshot this once it's approved. And so that's now doing it via the document system. In the next step, you can also add a whole bunch of issues that might have led to this. So there might be some design issues that you came out of the workshop. And you've had an issue that's been collaborated around. Again, my original plan was to have those there already, guys. Apologies for that. So you've connected that. And then because I've compared things in the budget system, you can then use standard block text that'll automatically put in the different budget amounts, the difference, the additional funds relate to the below issues, which are the issues I've just linked. Click on them to find more information. So again, we're trying to encourage UniPhi to be a platform product instead of having to send PDFs out and everything. If you're in the tool, they can click on the issues, see the comments and the conversations that actually led to these changes and have that interaction before they approve them. They may not be aware that they're upgrading from, low budget TVs to Sony, whatever they call their latest versions. And so we're now got awaiting sign off. That workflows through to those people. They would come in, as everyone knows, probably on the call and add their signature. I'm one of those people, as Joe Blogs, but I'm also signing off on behalf of these people. And so now we've got a new budget approved in the system using the document method. And so that method will now be there consistently. If I come back into the budget now and I try to snapshot, I can no longer tick those buttons there. I can create a scenario to present to people to kick around, but I can't get it approved through that snapshotting methodology. So now what we're going to do is say, okay, that's great, but what if I just wanted to transfer money between account codes? So it's not really a forecast to complete issue, it's an initial budget issue. Say that we now think the project manager needs to pinch money from the quantity surveyor, or you just have another value management workshop where you've reworked the budget for the contract and you want to bring that main works budget down. So it's actually a reduction, and you want to transact that. You want to know what it was all about. Well, that's where this new UniPhi 20 functionality comes in. And so what I'm going to do now is go back into my configuration settings, go back to my chart of accounts, click on the settings, and I'm going to tick this on. So we're going to keep this on. So we still need to do an approved budget through the document system. But to build that up, we're going to use this through budget change transactions. So I'll turn that on. Go back to my cost module. And lo and behold, we have a new budget transfer subnav appears. So that only appears under two reasons. One, I've clicked that drop down saying yes. And two, I have an approved budget. Until you have an approved budget, you're working up your budget in the budget screen. As soon as you get a budget that's approved, you can no longer edit it. I'm clicking on these screens and I can't add a comment, I can't change the budget. The only way to change the budget is through the budget transfer sub-navigation. And so when I go into the budget transfer sub-navigation, we can say VM workshop over design, impacting construction. Let's see if I can type. And then we've got the ability to say, okay, so that means I'm going to reduce my main works budget. So I'm taking it from the main works budget, and you can say how much. So before, you would have to have done the calculation outside of UniPhi, say $500,000. Get a calculator, get 29,441 minus $500,000, find out what the number is, key that number into UniPhi as your new budget change, and then the difference between the two, which would be $500,000, would be presented to management to say, hey, we've saved you $500,000. Here, because I'm selecting the from, you still do positive values because it's going to know that it's a reduction, and I just hit save. And so that's now going to present in the budget system a reduction of 500,000 on that line. So it's updating it for you rather than you keying it in based on what you've put into this. If I then say PM stole money from QS, because, wouldn't they love to do that? And what we can do then is say, okay, so that means we're taking it from Peter, which is QS, and we're giving it to Paul, which is PM. And they had 83 and we took away 33,100 of it. And so I do that and it does the double entry. So the overall budget's not going to change this time. But what will happen is, and again, emphasis on being able to write the comments, I can come into this screen and you can see that the PM now has an extra $30-something thousand, and the quantity survey is now down to 50,000. So it's done those transactions for you and updated what the total is, which is all pretty cool stuff, I reckon. And then when we go to the documents module, I can now present that information similarly to how I did before, except I'm going to use this new budget transactional. Delegations still apply. Because they were different levels, it's not that big a budget change, or it was a bigger budget change. I think I need to bring the project sponsor in. I don't have one, so I need to go and find one. That's going to drive the status to change from pending to approved. So this is a new template control that displays what it is that you're putting forward. You can have multiple lines. You don't have to do it one line at a time. And then this then, just like it did before, can be compared to the previously approved so that the variation's there. And we can say robbing the QF. It's a whole project one. Again, the issue-related issues can be linked to it again. The commentary still works, and the finish step still has the awaiting sign-off with the workflow through. And so when they see this transfer details, they see the various budgets, and they can sign on behalf of and move forward from there. If you don't want to have to do this documentation, because I know some of them, you won't want that, you will just want to have the transfers being notarized, you just turn off that option where it says budget requires a document to be approved. So in this, what would happen then in the budget transfer screen, you'll see if I click on these, I can't select approved. Approved is grayed out. If I turn that option off, then the PM or construction manager can select approved themselves, and it's just tracking themselves, giving them an audit trail of how they've come about changing their budget since they originally started. So it's up to you what those settings are. This is the new UniPhi 20 cost control capability, better capability to get estimates to complete, better capability to do budget transfers. If you go back to your dashboards, all of those transfers are sort of itemized in an aggregated sense within the budget cost report, but you've now got a transactional methodology to go back and say, this is what made up those amounts that led to the extra bits coming in to those line items. So that's it, 3 minutes under